In those little things we often miss, there's something in the air. Ignore the small clues that a woman leaves behind, whether she means to or not. Have you ever wondered how to tell if a woman hasn't been intimate for a while? Learning to read her behavior and gestures can reveal what she's saying outside of words. This isn't a guessing game or a superficial read. It's about understanding what's going on in her mind. Today I'm going to give you 7 signs that may indicate a woman hasn't been with a man for a long time. If you can spot them, you'll be able to figure out what she's feeling and how to approach her in a respectful and thoughtful way. It's about how she feels and the energy she gives off when she wants something but hasn't gotten it yet. Hi, my name is Celia. If this is your first time on my channel, please subscribe and hit the bell icon. Not only will what you read here surprise you, it will also give you the tools to improve your personal and mental life in a real way. Let's start with the first thing that everyone knows. The body doesn't lie. There's something fascinating about body language, especially when a woman is conveying more than she realizes. When a woman hasn't had intimate contact for a while, her body unconsciously begins to reveal that pent-up sexual energy. It's not always something she does on purpose, but the signs are there waiting to be noticed. And when you know how to observe, when you pay attention, you can detect that unmasked sexual energy in small gestures. Let me tell you a story. A few years ago, a friend of mine told me about a co-worker who had started behaving differently around him. It wasn't something obvious, but there were certain details in how she moved. When she was near him, he described how, in what seemed like a casual conversation, she would lean slightly closer to him, hold eye contact longer than usual, and play with her hair in a way he hadn't noticed before. It wasn't blatant flirting, but something subtler, yet constant. That energy which had been contained was starting to surface. What happens is that when a woman hasn't had intimate contact for a while, her body starts looking for ways to release that tension. She may not even be consciously thinking about it, but her body reflects it. Psychological studies have demonstrated that suppressed sexual energy can manifest through repetitive actions, such as touching her hair, biting her lips, or maintaining long, subtle physical contact with the person in front of her. These are actions that are simple to miss if you're not paying attention, but you'll know what's going on if you do. The body doesn't lie, but words can. Words can hide or change the truth. Body language is a direct way to read someone's emotions. Woman who hasn't been intimate with you in a while may lean toward you or touch you repeatedly, indicating her desire is seeking an outlet. Therefore, it's crucial to avoid making hasty assumptions or misinterpreting each gesture. You should be aware of what you see and smart about how you interpret it. Often these small movements are her way of expressing her potential interest in something more, but she wants to see if you pick up on the signs. Therefore, when engaging in conversation with a woman, it's crucial to pay attention to her body language. If she stares at you longer than usual, touches her hair or lips unconsciously, or wants to be close to you even when she doesn't have to, she may be trying to release sexual energy. Remember that everything matters. Unless they say so, women who haven't been sexual for a while will tell you everything you need to know by reading their bodies. If you pay attention to these body language cues, you can start to react more naturally and intuitively. This is because she's subtly revealing to you that there's more to her words and her smile than you've yet to discover. The second element is humor that is both enjoyable and thought-provoking. Something interesting about how humor can lead to intimacy is that after a woman hasn't been intimate for a while, she might start to play with ideas, comments, and jokes that she might have previously ignored. This often sly or double-edged humor is her way of gauging your reaction, and she doesn't do it by accident. Picture this. You're with a group of friends on a normal afternoon, and she says something that seems harmless. In a different situation, this could have been taken as a joke, but there's something different about it this time. Maybe the comment has a more personal undertone. Perhaps something along the lines of, "It's been so long since anything exciting has happened in my life," could be said, accompanied by a light laugh and a look that lingers a little longer than usual. The hint-laced humor is not a coincidence. A few months ago, one of my friends told me about his neighbor. He used to talk to her in a nice, casual way, but all of a sudden, she started making slightly bolder jokes. He initially thought it was UST conversation, but he soon realized there was more. The tension between them had been building for a while, and these jokes seemed harmless. The psychology of humor is fascinating, especially when it comes to human relationships. Humor is a powerful way to connect with people, and when a woman uses double entendre, she's doing it to see how they react. Of course, she will not be overt, as she understands the delicate balance between suggestion and discomfort, but her subtle provocation serves as a tactic to gauge your willingness to engage. It's not just what she says, but how she says it. If she starts talking about private things or making bold comments in a casual chat, it's likely that she's trying to tell you something. What's interesting is that she often disguises it as humor to protect herself. If she doesn't get the reaction she's hoping for, she can easily laugh it off and move on as if nothing happened. But if you catch the tone and the conversation becomes a little more charged with that playful banter, then you'll know there's something deeper at play. I remember a friend of mine, Marta, who always said humor was her secret weapon. She once admitted that she makes jokes about intimate topics to determine whether he is willing to engage in a playful exchange. This is a common practice among women who are seeking a connection that transcends the mundane. So, dear, when she starts joking about topics that never came up before, pay attention. Don't just focus on the laughter or the surface of the comment. Playful, provocative humor is an invitation to step into her emotional world and, in many cases, a clear sign that it's been a while since she's had intimate contact and that her mind and her body are seeking a connection. Third, the need for physical affection. Physical contact is one of the clearest ways for a woman to say what she often can't say with words. And after a period of time without intimacy, her need for physical affection can subtly but significantly increase. I'm not referring to overt physical affection such as hugs or caresses, but rather to subtle gestures of closeness that attempt to convey messages she may not feel comfortable expressing directly. I remember Laura, an old friend's co-worker. He told me that his interactions with her started to feel different. He now accompanied what used to be a casual greeting with a hug that lasted a bit longer than usual, or a light touch on the arm during conversation. At first, he didn't think much of it, but over time, these gestures became more common. These gestures were not intrusive, yet they conveyed a need for closeness, a desire for touch, or a silent plea for attention. If you don't know how to read these body language cues, they might not seem important, but when a woman hasn't been close to someone for a while, her body seeks affection in everyday interactions. It's as if she's trying to remember what it's like to be close to someone she's not asking for. Sex? But the need for physical contact starts to show up in small ways, like when she touches you, hugs you, or just stays close to you when she's with you. Studies have shown that people feel a stronger need for tactile affection when they don't have any physical contact. This is a normal body reaction to a lack of intimacy. It's interesting that these actions aren't always planned. A woman may not even be aware that she's wanting to be close to a guy. Her body just does what it does on instinct, looking for warmth and closeness. This is where you need to pay attention. Whether it's a simple touch on the shoulder while you talk, the way her hug lasts just a second longer than usual when she says goodbye, or the way her legs brush against yours in a casual but persistent way while you're sitting close. These are signs that there's more going on than just friendship or casual interaction. But remember, respect is key. Now is not the time to mistake every touch for a direct invitation. Instead, it is time to carefully read the situation and react with care. If a woman hasn't had close contact with you in a while, she may want affection, but she also needs to feel safe and understood. So the next time you feel that small brush of her hand on your arm, or that hug that lasts a little longer, take a moment to ask yourself if she's looking for something more. Beloved, beneath those unassuming actions, there might be an immense realm awaiting exploration. Changing the way a woman talks. When a woman hasn't been intimate for a long time, the way she talks can change in small but meaningful ways. Suddenly, what used to be everyday conversations became more personal and deep, touching on topics she may have avoided or skimmed over before. At this point, you should improve your listening skills, as a woman can reveal her unfulfilled needs when she feels secure in your presence and yearns for more. I remember talking to my friend Isabel, who mentioned how after months of not being with someone, her conversations with certain close friends started to take a different direction. I don't do it intentionally, she said, but I find myself talking about my past relationships, or how I miss feeling connected to someone. That vulnerability creeping into the conversation, that desire to share something more intimate, is a clear sign that there's something within her waiting to surface when a woman starts talking about her love life, or rather the lack of it. It's not because it's just a casual topic. She might tell you how much she's changed since her last relationship, or even drop lines like "I can't even remember what it feels like to be with someone." She might say it with a smile, but behind those words there's a deeper message. She's opening a window into her inner world, showing you that there's a void that has been there for a while, and maybe now it's starting to weigh on her more. A study I once read on emotional communication pointed out that when people feel lonely or in need of intimate connection, they tend to share more about themselves as a way of seeking that missing emotional bond. And when a woman who hasn't been intimate for some time starts to dive into these topics, it's no coincidence. She's looking for that safe space where she can express herself, and if she trusts you enough to talk about it, it's a clear sign that something more might be possible. It's fascinating that these conversations often start off innocently enough. You might be talking about relationships in general, or what it means to really connect with someone. But if she starts to talk about more personal things, like how lonely she is or what she misses about being in a relationship, you should pay attention. This isn't just her venting. She's letting you see how she's really feeling. This is where you need to be careful. Give her time to talk about how she feels and listen carefully without cutting her off. That's what she wants, someone who really listens. Don't discount the personal conversation. She needs to know that someone hears her and understands her feelings. She's not saying it directly, but if you read between the lines and respond with empathy, her openness invites better connection in every way. If you're enjoying the video so far and feel like you're learning something new, don't forget to subscribe and give it a thumbs up to support this content. I also recommend watching it until the end, because those who are truly committed to understanding these signs and strengthening their relationships will find the most revealing insights. I have one final piece of advice that could potentially surprise you and significantly impact your life. Also, tell me where you're watching from. I'd love to know. Let's move on to number 5. The jealousy in silence. Women sometimes show their jealousy in such a subtle way that it's almost impossible to notice. But when a woman hasn't been intimate for a long time, these small, quiet jealousies can start to show in ways you wouldn't expect. They won't be dramatic or scandalous, but you'll notice small reactions that give you clues about what's going on inside her. This kind of jealousy stems from a hidden deep wish, not just ego. Under wraps. Think about casually mentioning another woman to friends or co-workers. Pay close attention to how she reacts. If a woman you're close to falls silent for a moment longer than usual, changes the subject, or cracks a joke with an air of nonchalance, you might be seeing a sign. It's not possessive jealousy, but more of an internal reaction that says, "I wish I were the one getting that attention." This makes me think of Carolina, a college friend who always seemed calm and laid back when we talked, but everything changed when I started seeing someone new. Carolina never said anything out loud, but I started to pick up on little things. When I talked about my new girlfriend, she would either answer more quickly or make subtle comments like, "Well, some people get lucky in love." It wasn't a direct argument, but rather a quiet, persistent response that I struggled to comprehend at the time. These silent jealousies are a clear sign of hidden interest and insecurity. Often, they originate from women who have not experienced physical or emotional intimacy in a long time. This lack of closeness may make them subconsciously protect your relationship. Even if they don't say it, their mood or behavior around other women can tell. What's intriguing is that her jealousy doesn't always show up as something bad. In fact, it can be a way for her to reclaim her place in your life. For instance, she might make a sarcastic comment or ask you a playful question if you converse with her in a similar manner, but beneath the laughter lies a subtle hint of worry. This isn't due to a genuine conflict, but rather a brewing desire to be the one focusing on someone else. Psychology researchers have long studied jealousy, discovering that when it manifests in a healthy manner, it can signal interest and desire. It's like an internal alarm that tells us that the person we're interested in is important to us, and we want to keep that connection strong. So the next time you're talking to a woman you like, pay attention to those little signs. It could be a pause in the conversation, a slight tension in her expression, or a comment that seems like a joke but really means more. Often her words may convey her longing for intimacy with you and her hope that you will notice. The key is to be subtle and smart. Don't make a big move or talk directly. Sometimes the best thing you can do is just be there for her and show her that the attention she wants is already hers without the need for competition. What she really wants isn't a fight, but a deeper connection with you. Invitations to spend time alone. Sometimes a woman's actions, not her words, are the clearest signs that she wants to get closer to you. I know this to be true because shared moments of intimacy help us lower our guard and see if there's really a spark that goes beyond friendship. After being single for a while, I remember finding that I looked for times to be alone with people who interested me. I didn't do it directly, but instead of going out with a group or hanging out with friends, I'd suggest something quieter, like dinner or a movie at home. This is because sometimes what a woman wants, especially if she hasn't been intimate in a while, is to create moments where closeness can happen naturally without feeling forced. There's a reason we prefer these more private settings. When a woman invites you to do something alone with her, she's not just wanting to talk or pass the time. She's making a space where emotional and possibly physical intimacy can grow without interruptions or distractions from other people. At first, the invitation may appear innocent, yet it conceals a deeper meaning. When I've been in those situations, I felt a mix of excitement and curiosity. On the one hand, I wanted to see how the other person would act in a more intimate setting without distractions. On the other hand, I was also exploring the possibility of a mutual interest in forming a connection. Outside of normal activities, the need to be close to someone for a deeper conversation or simply to feel their presence becomes more apparent after a period of separation. Often, when we're alone with someone, we find ourselves drawn to impromptu moments. Perhaps it's a conversation that becomes more intimate than anticipated, or a shared laughter that breaks the ice and leads to a deeper connection. It's not just about being physically close, but also about creating a comfortable atmosphere where words flow more freely and gazes linger longer than usual. If you ever find yourself in this situation where a woman starts suggesting plans for just the two of you, pay attention. It's not just about spending time together, it's about seeing if there's an openness to something more intimate. And most importantly, observe how the dynamic changes when you're alone. Sometimes just sharing a quiet space can reveal more than you imagine. It's in these moments that real connection happens. It's not about making grand gestures or seeking an immediate response. Sometimes, simply being present in the silence and enjoying each other's company says a lot. If she asks you to spend time alone, know that she's opening up a doorway. If you can decipher her intentions, that invitation might mark the beginning of something far more profound. Seventh, the flirting becomes constant. When flirting becomes constant, the tone changes. It's as if all of a sudden, every interaction between you has a different charge, a stronger energy, and the subtle game gets stronger. This is a common occurrence for women who have not been intimate for a while. It's no longer just a smile or a quick look here and there. Now, every talk, every comment seems to be wrapped in a slight provocation in that never-ending game that never ends. I can say from personal experience that when a woman starts to feel desire for you, flirting can become a way for her to test how you react. It's not something she plans, it just happens. The jokes change tone, the words start to have more than one meaning, and the eye contact lasts long enough for both of you to realize that your conversations are more than just casual chats. It's intriguing that this flirting is neither forced nor aggressive. It's more like a dance, with both people pushing and pulling without saying anything. If you pay attention, you'll notice that her comments start to sound a little more playful, and her tone of voice changes a bit when things get more personal. For instance, she might tease you with a joke that crosses the line, or she might laugh a little harder when you say something a little bolder. After a period of time without a close relationship, I recall flirting more frequently with someone I liked. It wasn't on purpose, but I noticed that my comments became more direct and that the game of seduction became a constant part of our conversations. The flirting never stopped, as if we were waiting for the next step. The psychology of seduction tells us that flirting over and over again is a sign of interest and a way to see if you like someone without making a straight commitment. A woman finds the game of seduction more appealing when she hasn't experienced physical connection with someone in a while. The situation could worsen as she seeks a means to express herself and establish connections with others. It's intriguing that this type of flirting can persist for weeks or even months without either of you going overboard. It's like you're both enjoying the game, and the tension builds slowly over time. The important thing is to know what to do if she's constantly flirting with you. It's not just for fun. She's doing it to keep the spark alive and let you know she's interested without having to say it out loud. How can you tell if this flirting has a deeper meaning? Pay attention to whether it only happens with you. If there's a pattern to how she acts when you're together, if the tone is always light and playful, and if it feels like every conversation has a bit more emotional weight than it should, then it's likely that she started a game. In the game of constant flirting, it's not enough to take the first step. You also need to know when. If she has not been intimate with you in a while, she is likely engaging in conversation with you to determine whether you are also interested in playing. Patience is key here. It's not about rushing things, but enjoying the dynamic that's being created. So when you find yourself in the middle of that endless game of jokes, double meanings, and knowing smiles realize that there's something more at play, She's waiting to see if you pick up on the message, if you're willing to follow her lead. Because in the end, this constant flirting is her way of telling you she's ready for something more. But she wants you to be the one to discover it. In the end, it all comes down to the ability to see what isn't always said in words. The signs a woman leaves when she's been without intimacy for a while aren't an impenetrable mystery, but rather glimpses of emotions, desires and needs seeking to be understood. What we've explored today is much more than a guide to understanding her subtle language. It's an invitation to connect from a more authentic and respectful place, because behind every gesture, every glance, there's a story waiting to be discovered, a desire to be seen, heard, and perhaps loved in life. It's those small moments of attention and true understanding that transform our relationships. And when you learn to read these signs with empathy and care, you become someone who's not just looking to fulfill a superficial need, but someone who understands and values what the other person is truly communicating. My name is Celia, and I want this to be a place of wisdom and reflection where we can openly discuss these topics, always with respect. Here we explore not only intimacy, but how to improve our everyday lives in every aspect, because every small change we make within ourselves is reflected in our relationships and the well-being of those around us. If this is your first time on my channel, I invite you to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of the upcoming topics. And if you've made it this far, I congratulate you, because it means you value your personal growth, and that deserves recognition to know who among you is committed to this journey of self-discovery. Comment with "I love wisdom" and let me know where you're listening from. I'd love to read your messages and find like-minded people. Also, don't forget to share this video with someone who might need it. Sometimes, a simple piece of advice or thought can make a big difference in someone's life. See you in the next video, and keep in mind that understanding, not just the words spoken, is what matters most.